Julie Cluley, welcome to Unbroken.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
It's so great to have you. So let's begin with you telling us about a little bit about your background and how you came to find the principles.
Okay, so my, I guess, knowledge of the principles has been since about 2018, um, from memory, and I came across the principles. One of these like Facebook ads that kind of just pops up. It was Nicola Bird, who you've maybe heard of,
Hmm.
um, who was on that video, and just one of those moments, where you're like, whoa, what? Wait, what? Pardon? And I was like, oh, interesting. And at that time, I was struggling with, I guess you could say, anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, that kind of thing. I was being told it was all my hormones and, all of that kind of stuff, and offered various things from HRT to antidepressants to all kinds of things that I wasn't really, it just didn't sit that well with me. So I was kind of resisting that, but getting a bit desperate, like, oh my God. And I just came across that video and downloaded, I think originally like a 6 week kind of course thing, online course, and then something else. And quite quickly, I just knew, I was like, oh my God, this is like, this changes everything. And very quickly, actually, started to feel a lot better. And within a year, I think, year or two, maybe a year, I signed up for her like coaching program to kind of become practitioner. So I did that, and qualified in that. It was April 2020. Good
Okay.
timing. um,
Yes.
and it was interesting. And I just kind of have brought that into. So I was a dog behavior coach for since 2006, so like 18 years. So I've been doing that, just kind of, that was fine. It was great. Really enjoyed it. Did that along with having my kids, and so I was kind of juggling work, kids, that kind of thing. And then I added in the practitioner thing as well. And then since COVID, things have evolved quite differently,
Mm.
and kind of combined the two in the online world.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, interesting. And before you found the principles, had you be so many of my guests had been sort of lifelong seekers, people who were looking for answers. Would you classify yourself as that or describe?
Not
Not
really,
really.
no.
Mm,
No, not really. No, I was kind of interested in kind of why are we here and that kind of thing, but I wasn't like, no, I wasn't a big seeker. I think
mm,
because I guess, well, it seemed to me that it came up when things were bad. And so up until that point, I did have a burnout maybe about 10 years previously, but things had just kind of been okay, nothing major.
hmm.
Um, so no, I wouldn't say I'm in that
Okay. All right. Good to clarify. And the thing that I'm fascinated by and what I wanted, to talk to you about mostly today is this intersection between your dog training and the principles. And I just find that so fascinating. So, yeah, let's explore that a little bit. So, how do you or do you fold the principles in with your dog training work?
Yeah. Yes, I very much do. The Interestingly, when I came across the approach that I share with dogs, around dog behavior, it was kind of similar to when I came across the three principles. It was one of those whoa moments where I had been trying to find ways to help my own dog, and I was just coming up against a brick wall. It was very much obedience and training and do this and do that. And I just, nothing really resonated until I came across this approach, which is called dog listening.
Mm,
And I did my training and all that kind of stuff way back then. But what I found when I came across the principles was, it was almost like I had a new language to use to share the same thing. So I was sharing the same thing, but just in maybe a slightly different way, slightly different delivery, and it felt much nicer, much more relaxed, because the approach, the way I was taught with my dog listening approach, was quite, although it was very different to anything else that was out there, it was still very much do it this way. It's this way or the highway. And I was like, I can see it works really well, but I can also see that the same four kind of areas look different in every household and look
Mm,
different for each person. And so coming across the principle, I was like, I see what I was kind of, it just didn't feel quite right. I felt a little bit antsy about it because I wasn't really in the game for dictating what people had to do or not do. So yeah, I think the first thing that really helped was bringing a new language to the
mm,
to the same thing, really.
right. Yeah. And on your website, you mentioned you had quite an anxious dog, and
Yes.
that was sort of the impetus for your search for help for her.
Yeah.
And I imagine, I'm just guessing, that um the human being, the in the room, in the house, and their state of mind affects the dog's state of mind. Is that true?
Yes, I would definitely say that that is true. However, I would want to clarify that with that, very quickly, from a human perspective, we go into terrible judgment and like, oh my God, I need to fix my anxiety. Otherwise, now I'm going to have an anxious dog and an anxious me. And that just more and more thinking, escalating the whole shebang. So there is a certain amount of truth in that. However, it is possible to still have anxious thinking and your dog's fine.
Mm, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Yeah. So it so how does our thinking affect dogs, or when is, or can you tell?
Yeah, I think it comes down to like understanding your dog. So we very often put our thinking onto our dog, which obviously isn't true. We're making that up. So
Hmm.
when we can start to really understand not what our dogs are thinking, because quite honestly we'll never know, but what they are telling us from what we do know about their body language and what certain things mean, because there's a lot of misrepresentation and a lot of confusion around, for example, my dog is really happy to see me when it comes home and it's really overexcited and, it's wagging its tail and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, really? Is that what's going on? Or is it that it's just really relieved to see you because the dog didn't know where the heck you were and was really worried about the fact that you left and they're just really relieved? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very different understanding
Mm-hmm.
what's going on, and the action that you take from that place is very different.
Mm, right.
So
Okay. Yeah.
that makes sense. So I was seeing a client earlier today, just as another example, and she said to me, my dog really enjoys the walks, but when I get the lead out, she runs away and hides.
Mm,
I'm like, so why do you think your dog likes the walk? And she said, because she's always asking to go for a walk. When it gets to this certain time, she's asking to go. And I was like, okay. So really what's happened there is the dog's been conditioned to know roughly when they go for a walk. And the dog wants the walk to happen on their terms. And so the dog is then going, okay, let's go. But actually, the dog clearly doesn't want to go. But
mm,
then once they finally wrestle the dog into the lead and head out the door, the dog then is off first. And so it's understanding, well, why is that happening? And and seeing that, oh well, there's definitely, I'm missing something here. If the dog is hiding from the lead, then it's not as straightforward as what we think, whereas we just assume that a dog likes to go for a walk, and maybe that's not true. And
mm,
usually will give us signs and signals. And so it's like really, really observing and listening and um, trying to understand what their state of mind is. And actually, they're very obvious with their state of mind, kind of as are we. It's like you can see that if they're like this, then they're probably, in a heightened state without putting anything else onto it. Just that is helpful to know. And we know that any being in a heightened state is going to make different actions or take different actions than any being that's in a more, settled state.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I saw a little video, and I don't even know how I stumbled across it on YouTube the other day. And it was a mother dog, a golden retriever, and there were a bunch of puppies there. And I guess they were she was weaning them. And
Yeah.
so they were inside on one side of a baby gate, and then the mother dog came in, and they were all, squiggly and happy to see her, and their little tails were wagging like crazy and trying to nurse. And it was the most remarkable thing. The mother, like, she sort of growled at them, and snapped at them a little bit, and they all had to calm down. Like, they all had to get quiet and calm and kind of settle down before she would let them nurse. And I just thought that was the most fascinating thing, one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. So this calm state of mind that we talk about in the principles, extends outward. It doesn't just apply to us.
I don't think so. I mean, who really knows? But to my mind, that's a perfect example of, in a very, like calm, gentle way. Okay, she was growling, but she was in no way aggressive with them, I'm assuming.
No.
She was very much just like, no, this isn't
Yeah.
happening.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
clear, very calm, very, I would imagine she's kind of looking away from them. She's holding herself tall. She's very relaxed. She's like, but this is just not happening until you lot settle down. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And that's one of the things that we share in dog listening when we come across our dogs, when we come home and our dogs are going mental, is like, that's not the time. That's not the moment to greet them. That's not the moment to engage with them if that's a behavior that you don't want. And
Right.
clearly, for in the bigger picture, we don't really want them to be in that heightened state.
Yes. Yeah. And so as a little peace of mind practitioner,
Mhm.
when you have or do you ever have clients that have dogs, and you're working with them about their anxiety, does the dog behavior ever get folded in that way?
Yes, it does. Very
Mm.
naturally, actually. So I have the way I work with people is a group online course.
Mhm.
And basically what happens is that people will come in and they'll go through the modules and they'll learn the approach. And then we have weekly calls and we have WhatsApp connections with everybody. And what tends to happen is, when people first join, there's a lot of activity and then they kind of fall away and then come back and all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting because I would say that 80% of people that I work with have some level of anxiety, like identify as having anxiety, because
Mm.
clearly everybody has moments of anxiety, particularly, well, often where their dog's concerned, because we like to be in control and we can't control these beings, and that really upsets us. So, yes, that does come into it, definitely. So, on those weekly calls when I'm coaching, I'll coach about the dog, and I'll also coach about, you could see mine look. She's peeking in the
Oh.
door. Come on then. Sorry, 2 seconds, I'll let her.
Sure, yeah.
I thought I'd left it open wide enough for her to come in, but clearly not.
Right.
She was not for pushing the door. Um,
What's her name?
so she's called Fudge.
Fudge. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
because she looks like a fudge, really. She's kind of fudge colored. She was going to be fudge or honey. That was her.
Mm, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, so I do very much bring the three principles into the conversation, which can be very helpful. Although I would say that there's definitely space for, how would I say it, like more of that, more kind of targeted. So one of the ideas I have for the next few months, once we've unloaded the people for this month, this month, is to actually target anxious dog owners rather than
Oh, yeah.
owners of anxious dogs.
Yeah.
And the kind of idea behind that is to really, I guess, focus primarily on the three principles with the kind of dog approach brought in underneath it, and then just playing with it and just seeing how that works, and what happens. um yeah, because it is definitely, it's a really special connection. It really
Mhm.
is. um yeah, it's kind of like the I was thinking the other day, actually, I've always had in mind about writing a book. Who knows if I'll ever get around to it, but I did come up with the name. Oh, now I forgot. The Inside Out Understanding of Dogs.
Nice. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that would kind of work.
Yeah.
That would be special. Um, so yes, I think we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And I imagine that anxious people with dogs, maybe this isn't true, but can see their anxiousness reflected in the dog's behavior. Is that true?
That's interesting. I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think people who are in it can
Mhm.
see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my experience. When you're in it, it looks like the dog is the problem. The dog needs to be fixed, and something needs to happen out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
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 So yeah, that what you've just said is helpful to point people towards,
Right.
because obviously once we see that it's all in us, then clearly it makes life a lot easier, because
Mm.
you're not trying to fix this dog that, there's really nothing wrong with the dog. The only thing that's wrong ever is that they're in this heightened state and then they're acting crazy from that. So
Mm.
if we can take that down, then they don't act crazy.
Right.
For want of a better
Right.
way of putting it. I'm just covering the like all dog behavior issues there with acting crazy, but you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. But and it's such a beautiful parallel because it is so similar with us. When we're in a heightened state and our thinking is really stirred up, we're acting a little crazy.
Yeah,
And then when we learn that we can, have a bit of an impact on that, and that waiting until our state automatically settles down, because it will happen that way, is so incredibly helpful. Yeah.
it really is. It's like the only job that we have
Mm.
to do, if there is even a to do, is just, look after yourself, go have fun, do, whatever to, yeah, you're going to be in that state. It's hiding there underneath. And it really is the same with our dogs.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's often about creating an environment where they're able to relax, so that, they can, rather than trying to make them relax, like, go relax, lie down. It's
Yes,
like,
yeah.
if we create an environment where they feel they can relax, which is making me laugh, because now I think she is going to lie down, because her bed is over there and it's up against the wall, and she's like looking at it going, could you please bring it down? Could you
Oh,
please bring it down? But she's fine. She's laid down. So
y okay,
yeah.
good.
So it's, creating environments where they feel comfortable, they feel happy, they feel relaxed, and recognizing where they're not feeling like that, and working up to those places. Not to say, we're never gonna move to your edge. Like we all kind of want to move to our edge to develop and evolve, but we don't want to go beyond it
Hmm.
because we're just in a horrible place, really horrible
Hmm.
state.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Um, and oh, excuse me. So looking back toward your sort of dog ownership, parenthood, before you found the principles, do
Mhm.
you notice changes in yourself about that?
Yes, definitely. I would say the dog listening that I kind of came across, changed everything with regards
Mm,
to dog ownership. And then I think the one thing that I felt with the approach that I share, without the principles, it did feel quite maybe onerous, maybe like there was quite a lot to do. Um,
mm,
there was a bit of a list and you kind of had to tick those off. And I guess now that list is still there. It's just held much more lightly. I think that would be the best way to describe it. It's kind of like, yeah, we can do it one day. If we don't do it, nothing's going to happen. And the good thing with dogs is you cannot get it wrong because they will tell you, they will keep you right. So
mm,
you just can't get it wrong. Like, yeah, if you do, they'll tell you, and then you can reassess and sort it out. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a much easier, lighter kind of way of being, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I would say that's probably for me personally. That's what's happened.
yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. And I imagine it's affect your parenthood with your human children as well, the principles.
Yes, definitely. Although I would say that maybe there's a work in progress there with my youngest. Although we are getting there and making progress. But yes, absolutely. Of course, it has made a difference. It's made a massive difference. Um, but I guess it's really interesting, isn't it, with the principles that we have blind spots, and I guess with dogs, it's just is blown open and it's really clear, and it's just so obvious to me.
Mm.
Whereas with children, yeah, maybe less so.
Right.
Do you know? It's like
Yeah.
it looks really like the problem is out there. Like I know it's not, but yeah. Whereas with dogs, somehow, and we never know which ones we're going to get when, but with the dog thing, it's like I just can't. I genuinely can't see problem dogs. So when people come to me,
Mm.
there's never any real problem. It's just we all just need to settle down here, and we
Yeah.
just need to put a few things in place, and boom, before you know it, you're like, whoa, whoa, what have you done to my dog?
Right.
That kind of thing. Whereas, yeah, with children, yeah, maybe less so.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
And you mentioned that when you stumbled across the principles, you were feeling overwhelm and burnout. Did you say burnout as well?
Yeah, burnout. I think that would probably be the best way to describe it. Yeah, that would be the thing.
And do you find that that has shifted since?
Yeah,
Yeah.
massively,
Mm,
massively. Yeah. It did take a while for that to shift, I would suggest, actually, a good few years. Like, the anxiety and the panic attacks seemed to dissipate, dissolve, not quite overnight, but very quickly when I bumped into the principles. But the overwhelm, um, yeah, was kind of the thing that you're like, right, I need that to go now.
yeah.
So that took a while because there was quite a lot of resistance. Um, but yeah, that's definitely a lot less uh, tight, I suppose is the word. It's don't get me wrong. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed,
Hmm.
but it never seems to have quite the same intensity. And it really blows my mind how it doesn't matter how busy you are or how, like, yeah, I feel feel overwhelmed on holiday. And then when I'm back at work and I've got everything going on, I'm like, oh, this is fine. Like, just being able to see that is like, oh yeah, yeah, funny that, Julie. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's such a a state of mind problem, quote unquote. Yeah, that we get into. And so what did you see or what do you see about overwhelm and burnout that might help others?
Um, yeah, it's a really good question. And actually it's funny because I haven't thought about it for quite a long time,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is interesting. I think for me the thing that really helped with all of it was to realize that being overwhelmed, I guess that it didn't mean anything, and that it just I was able to, at some point, I was able to almost, well, actually, not even almost, but kind of laugh at it. I could see it for what it was. I could see my mind like almost whizzing itself up. And,
Yes.
I was like, whoa, what? Really? And it was kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of doing that thing again. And I guess I just was able to it was something lighter about it, something less serious. Whereas I think before I just thought, oh my God, if I get overwhelmed and then I'm going to get panicked and then, I'm going to fall out with the kids and then I'm going to have to divorce my husband. And then, it was like, whoa, in about 30 seconds,
Yes. Yes.
it was like, okay, do you really have to do all of those things? Or would you just, sit here and breathe kind of thing? And
Yeah.
I think at some point, when you just have that maybe little bit of distance between what's going on up here and how fast it's going, to just stepping back a little bit and recognizing that it's up here. And actually that springs to mind the thing that really really helped me, and it's so simple and so kind of silly, but it was those snow globe. I'm sure you've heard of the
Yeah.
snow globe analogy, yeah, where you shake it up and you just put it down. Like I literally could see myself shaking it,
Mm.
and then I'd be like, okay, okay, maybe it's time to put this down. Is there, I would literally look around myself and go, right, is there anything that needs to be done right now, right this second?
Mm.
And if there's not, then you've got time to go and breathe for 3 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's probably the things that helped me most thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, that snow globe metaphor is such a good one. And yeah, I love it. My little snow globe is over there on the shelf. And
Yeah,
I
I haven't got one actually, and I really do
oh,
need to invest in one because
yeah.
I use it a lot for my dog clients, because we very easily can do that with our dogs. It's like, oh my God, it went out and it like barked at somebody, and then this person did that, and then the next time this is what could happen, and it's like, okay, none of that's happening. It's
Yeah.
fine. So yeah, I do use the snow globe thing. So note to self, invest in a
Yes.
snow globe.
Put one on your birthday list for next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, what else do I want to ask you? I guess why don't you tell us a little bit about the little peace of mind program that you run and how that works and how often you do it and what people take away from it?
So the program that I run is not a little piece of mind. That was the program that I did way back
Okay.
in the day. So yeah, I that was the program that I was part of, and became a little piece of mind practitioner.
Right.
Um, but these days, what I do is I run a course called Peaceful Pause.
Oh, so it's the dog training that's the course. I thought it was the little piece of mind. Gotcha. Okay.
No, it's the
Yeah.
dog training. The
Yeah.
the anxious dog owners one is still in my mind. It's not in form yet, but
Okay.
watch this space. And I don't know what that'll be called. Peaceful people, maybe? I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe.
Peaceful balls, peaceful people. Yeah, that works. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, so Peaceful Pause is the one that I run, that I love, and been running it now for, well, in various different formats for a few years, but kind of as it is now for about just over a year.
Mhm.
And it's a place where people can come and be part of something. So it's like you join, you get the course, the modules, you can work through all of that, which is a kind of an education on understanding dog behavior and how they are, what they do, what we know of what they do.
Mhm.
Uh, and so there's that side of it is the course, and then the I guess the bigger part of it probably is the community, which is we do a weekly call every Friday lunchtime, and we have a Monday evening once a month, and we also have WhatsApp connection.
Mm.
And really, that's where the magic happens, because you take the information from the modules and then you put it into practice. And then usually it all kind of goes, oh, what am I doing?
Right.
But my dog didn't do what I thought it was going to do when I did that. And
Yeah.
so we kind of, yeah, I'm able to coach in those calls. It's group coaching, but I can do, one-to-one with people while everyone's listening,
Yeah.
which I find incredibly powerful, because you don't have almost the defensiveness. It's like you hear
Mm.
more when somebody else is being coached, and it's like, oh yeah, my dog does that too. Oh, right. And so I found that really incredibly helpful. And that's what my clients come back to me with. They love that, just listening. And then in between times, if there's like maybe like a win or something, something good's happened, then they'll share it in the group. Or if they're having a panic, they'll share that in the WhatsApp group, and we can all, keep everybody on track. And I guess from when I first started it with, just a few people in it, we've now got 20 or so. It's it's just been so beautiful to see how everybody has supported each other. And,
Mm.
it's just it's just a really beautiful space. I really, really love it. So that's where I mainly do my work, actually, these
Mhm.
days. I find the format works really well. When people first come in, they do have a one-to-one with me like this,
Mhm.
so that really, so I can get to know them and their dog, really well personally, just to start them off. And then, go from there in the group space. Um, but yeah, it's really special. I really love it. It's a brilliant opportunity. It's a brilliant way. And if it hadn't been for COVID, I'm not sure it would have taken off in the way it has, because a lot of people couldn't get their head around, well, I need you to come and see my dog.
Yes.
So, the idea that I can help your dog when, really your dog's just lying at your feet,
Yeah.
um, is, to be honest, I had known before COVID that that was a thing, because I could see that people learned way better when I wasn't there.
Mm. Oh,
Because if you
wow.
think about it, if you have someone come to your home, you're already kind of on edge, because you're like, oh God, what's the dog gonna do? And is it going to be bad enough? Because sometimes people are like, no, it's being really good. Like
Right.
I wanted it to do the thing so that you could see. And I'm like, I believe you. I
Yeah.
don't need to see it. I believe you. And so um yeah, as long as there's like that two-way trust in that, they believe that I believe them, then we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, and then it's fine.
Mhm.
In a much more relaxed atmosphere to
Mhm.
love. Whereas when the dog's there, yeah, it's a bit of a distraction, and you're really only dealing with whatever is happening in that moment, rather than the whole day or week that the dog is living with you. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And then do you work with people one-on-one from a three principles perspective, like about anxiety?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. And I kind of, yeah, as I say, I do the one-on-one thing, and I do enjoy the one-on-one thing, but I think deep down, I prefer the group thing,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons why this kind of anxious dog owners is coming to mind.
Mm.
Um, but I do understand that when you're feeling feeling anxious, you maybe don't want to be with other people.
Mm,
So, I can see that there's space for all of it. But for me, I think I'm quite excited about seeing what happens with the helping people from, you know, the owner recognizing their anxiety and wanting help with that, and then subsequently that will have an effect on the dog. So it's kind of the same, just a slightly different take on it.
yeah, yeah. No, so interesting. Yeah, fascinating. Well, we're
Yeah.
coming up, I think, almost to the end of our time here together. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to share?
I don't think so. I think if anybody is watching this week, and they are interested and want to come and find out what on earth I'm talking about, dog listening and three principles and all this stuff, I can send you the link. I have a free kind of 3 days of action that I'm going to do next week. So I'm going to spend some time. We're going to do some trainings each morning and then a Q&A. So it's an opportunity for people to bring their particular question, their particular issue to me, and I can answer that directly
Hmm.
and point in the right direction. So I do that every few months, just as a way to make sure that this information is accessible to everybody, to be
Hmm.
honest. We want it to be accessible to as many people as are possibly interested, because not only does it help us, the human, it just, for me, it's the dogs and, being an advocate for the dogs. So the more people that can be touched by that, then
Hmm.
the better.
Yes.
So yeah, so if anybody does happen to be listening to this week, then they would, yeah, I'd love to see them in that space.
Sure. Yes. Okay. So I can put a link in the show notes at unbrokenpodcast.com. So speaking of which, tell us where we can find out more about you and your work.
Yeah, just generally, my website is www.juliehelpsyouhelpyourdog. .co.uk, and there are blogs, and there's a free ebook that you can just download. So yeah, there's lots of things on there. I am on Instagram as well, but I don't use it that much, so I'm not even going to tell you about it.
Okay.
Because I'm just like, oh, and I'm also on LinkedIn though, as well. So Julie Cluley on LinkedIn. And yeah, I do a bit of work in that space. But yeah, I just find the social media, talking about overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I hear that.
Blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
So,
I'm not a dog owner, but I signed up for you have a free video as well about
oh,
um anxious dogs, and I found it really informative. But like I say, I don't have a dog, but I really enjoyed it.
yeah, just really, and that's the thing. Yeah, it is quite fascinating just to see what's
Hmm.
going on, and to even just, I often say to people, if they are scared of dogs,
Mm.
there's things that you can do. Actually, I'm going to just share that with you right now. Is that if you are scared of a dog, and they're running up to you, so the first thing is, if you find yourself among dogs, is just don't make any eye contact. Whatever you do, do not
Mm.
make any eye contact. Keep your eyes above the dog level as
Mm.
best you can. Take your hands and keep them out of the way. Cross your arms, because then there's nothing for the dog to grab.
Hmm.
Some may grab clothes, but that helps. Crossing your arms, keeping your eyes above the dog level, and then just not turning your back, but just sort of turning like that. So kind of side on.
Yeah.
You don't want to turn back on in case, and whatever you do, don't run.
Right. Yes. Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, thanks for those tips. Anyone who's anxious about dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say to people with kids, just say to them, because kids are really good at, like, when you give them an action to do, not a not doing. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you
Mm.
say don't make eye contact, they're like, what? What do you mean? Look at the other dog. So I always
Yes.
say, just for kids, just cross your arms and look at the sky.
Ah, yeah. Wow.
And
Oh,
it's
very cool.
really, really powerful, because then, there's nothing for the dog. There's no threat then for the dog, and the dog will like literally 99.9% of the time just kind of come to a halt and go, oh,
Mm.
doing there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going like this and looking at them and going, oh, I'm scared, the dog's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Things to grab,
Right.
attention to be having. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, awesome. All right. Great. Well, thank you for that tip, Julie. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye.